Hello everybody, it's Tommy and welcome back to my channel. Today we are building Spooky High School from another game I've been playing here on my channel called Monster Prom. So this ended up actually being this was a pre-planned video, but this ended up being a very convenient video to make around this time for a few different reasons. So this whole game, and I will talk a little bit more about the game for those of you who don't know what the game is a little bit of more of like a Halloween game. You know, it has some spooky elements to it. The characters in it are all based after monsters, although I would say that you could play the game any time of the year, but whenever Halloween time comes around, we do tend to think of like monsters and creatures and weird little things like that. So really fits in with the time of year, things that I would be creating right around now. But we also got the announcement just the other day officially that we are going to be getting university in The Sims 4. And this is a high school, this is not a university, but I think that you guys could probably expect to see me build a few variations of different types of schools, whether they be more famous schools from shows, movies, anything like in that spectrum, and then also in general just doing like university-esque videos. Additionally, this ended up being a super convenient thing for me to do because I was playing this game recently and I really enjoyed this game. So you can check out the playlist of me playing Monster Prom. It will be linked at the end of this if you want to see a little bit more about this game. You're not really sure about it. You have never heard of it. Highly recommend. It is a variation of like a dating simulator, I would say, but it is definitely the most... I don't know how to say it other than like risque dating simulator, but it also has the most possible outcomes, hidden events, endings of any that I have ever played. Like a lot of them, usually how they'll work is you'll have, let's say for example, 5 characters that you can either play as, or you can go through their personal story, or you can romance them, and each one of those will have its own separate ending. But this one is completely out there in that depending on how you choose things and do certain events and like buy things from the store and all of that, you can get up to, I think there was 1,400 possible outcomes. So there are many different things that can happen. There's little hidden pathways in between. I've seen from some other gameplay that you can get some really crazy events. And I think that it's a very unique game. So a way to like incorporate that onto another part of my channel, a huge part, which is The Sims, I have been sort of deciding that I'm either going to do a speed build of some of the other games that I've been playing in The Sims or do a create a sim. So when I finished KFC, the KFC game, I did a create a sim, and for this one I am doing the Monster High Spooky High School. So this is sort of the overhead map that you would see when you are selecting the different areas that you can go in the game so that you can get to know the different characters. Every day sort of ends, and then you start the next day here at the overhead of the school, and then you can pick which rooms you want to go into, whether it's the classroom, the bathroom, and all of that. It's a map you become very familiar with when you're playing the game because you go there very often. And it's beautiful artwork. I absolutely love the style that they went with and the colors and the tones. So I decided it was a really good time to attempt to build all of this. But this is an exception. I'm actually not done with Monster High. I had intentions to play some more of it. A lot of you know that my schedule ended up getting really delayed because we did have a storm here on the East Coast and I lost power for a few days, so everything that I was planning on doing or working on at that time sort of got pushed back, delayed, and we only have so many days in October. It was supposed to be like an October thing, but I'm glad that I ended up waiting because, lucky for me, and this is like super awesome, the creators of Monster Prom actually reached out to me to give me a code to give away to you guys for the game, 100% free. So I'm going to be doing more videos on Monster Prom. The giveaway information for the game will be available in those videos, so stay tuned for that. If you would like to keep updated on it, you should follow me over on Twitter. It is linked down below, and just keep an eye on my channel for the next Monster Prom video. It will be very clearly displayed, and one of you can win a copy of the game totally free. Check out my playlist, again, linked at the end of the video. If you don't really know the game, you're not super familiar, I really do highly recommend it. It is one of my current favorite games, but I've also, over the years of it being around, very much admired it for the fact that it is so diverse when it comes to like LGBTQ. It is super, super friendly for all of that stuff. I love the art. I love the direction that they went in. I love that they totally like went with it and went hard for the game, and they just didn't care. They wrote it out exactly how they wanted to. A lot of the voice actors for it are very recognizable if you are in the YouTube space. So, highly recommend. But as far as the school goes, there were a couple of key things that I wanted to make sure that I did. For this particular build, I haven't done a recreation in a really long time. So when I say recreation, I mean that I have a photo of reference and I am 100% trying to replicate it as closely as possible. So the things that usually stand in my way when I am doing something like that are game limitations. For this, it happened to be, I would say, space, distance between buildings, and distance between certain sections. This is a school, so it's supposed to be fairly large, and we are on the largest lot in the game, but I did find that I was out of room by a few tiles here, especially, I would say, like, the football field and everything. It's not as big as I would have liked. It is a little bit like more smaller central like track type of thing, and I lined everything up exactly. So if you go to the reference photo, which I will probably link something down below if you guys aren't familiar with like the overhead map, there are like exactly 5 lines on the football field and stuff like that. So I tried to keep everything very, very much exactly how I was seeing it in the photo, but I would have just liked a little bit more distance across. Granted, I don't have that. So those are the types of things. And then additionally, I would also say things like objects that we don't have in the game quite yet. So we are getting university soon, and a lot of sports related things appear to be coming with that pack. It seems to be maybe a little bit more soccer related, and we do have basketball already, which was great for this build, especially when we go to decorate some of the interior. But football is something that hasn't really been touched in The Sims 4 yet, so we don't have things like goalposts and football related items, maybe some like banners or scoreboards and things like that. And I am really hopeful that we are going to get that with university, but for this, I kind of have to take pieces and mesh them together in order to create something visually similar. And the other thing I would say was coloring. I had a huge issue with colors on this speed build. So you're going to see me jump around to a couple of different lots. This might be something that I haven't really explained in a video before, but different worlds have different sort of color presets, and the sun faces different directions depending on what lot you're on. So if the sun faces from like the left-hand side of the lot, and I am trying to build there, all of the colors and like the most bold form that you would want to see them are going to be more visible on the left-hand side of the lot than if they are on like the front-facing lot. So to make that make a little more sense, ideally you would want a really large 64 by 64 where the sun faces the front part of the lot, which is not a thing in The Sims 4, and it's very aggravating. So it kind of creates this like hue problem where I'm sort of trying to match the colors from the image, but it's a little bit difficult to see if I am doing it correctly, because depending on what time of day it is, the colors are going to appear totally different on this lot. And it doesn't help that I have a reshade, I'm not going to lie. That definitely makes it a little bit worse, but my reshade enhances the colors in a way that I particularly enjoy. So to me, it's kind of the give and take. But for this one, I needed to use a lot of like purples, and then they sort of trimmed the buildings in like orange tones. And it was more of like a salmon-y orange. It was just very hard to replicate, and I toyed with colors for a long time. I ended up getting rid of most of the footage because it is just like constantly changing everything. And there was some sort of texture on the building where it appeared to be like made out of brick, and then when you go into like brick options and change the color to like purple and pink, you are really, really limiting yourself as far as that goes. Ultimately, I think I ended up with a really happy point for the colors. It's not exact. I would have liked something a little bit different, but again, game limitations. It's just those little things that you have to decide what's more important. And for me, having the slight change in color is a little bit more important to maybe keep some of like the same textures and things like that overall. And then the last thing is this tower to the far left. So we did receive an update to The Sims recently that allows for you to create very interesting stair shapes. And it's not exactly a spiral staircase. Like you can manipulate the stairs to create like a winding sort of pattern. It still takes up a ton of room. And I think that ended up being the issue. But you can spin them around so that they are small enough to fit into a tower like that. So it does make the tower more accessible than it would have been in the past. In the past, I probably would have said, sorry about the tower, you actually can't really use it, but I was able to get stairs all the way up to the top floor where I decorated the library, which is how it is indicated on like the map of the game. The top of that tower is actually the library. And in the back of my head, I was trying to keep this as functional as possible. I know that university is coming out. We don't really know too many of the specifics of it. It does seem to obviously be more like university/college based, but hopefully it does add some sort of system to the game that is more school-based. A lot of people are hoping for that, or there are some mods available, so I think that this could be used in some capacity. You could also obviously create some of the characters from Monster Prom and use it in little Let's Plays and just for your own personal use, so I wanted it to be functional. With that being said, I have decided that I was only going to decorate the rooms that were indicated on the map. So when you are using like the overhead map to go to the different places in Monster Prom, you can only access certain parts, obviously, as is per usual. And you have the auditorium, the library, the classroom, the bathroom, the gym, and then the tree in the back that's called like outdoors or something like that. So I only decorated what I could see on the map, meaning those given areas. So a lot of the space in between is left a little bit more empty, and I think that that is okay. It leaves you guys some room to maybe decorate it yourself, or, you know, it is a little bit time consuming to decorate a building of this size, so I'm sure you guys understand. So as you can see, the colors are coming together a little bit more here. I did also have the issue of creating some kind of a devil in the middle. That's like the school mascot, it appears. There's like a big one on the top of the building, and then there's some on the gate, and they use this like little devil symbol everywhere. So I was like, I have to find a way to replicate something like that. So if you go into debug mode, there is actually a huge selection of sugar crystals available, and I think they're called sugar skulls, sugar skulls available, and I decided to pick one that was in like a more pinky purpley tone to match with some of the tones of the building, and then I was like, gotta give it horns. So I ended up scrolling through debug for quite a while, and I found, I don't even know what they're called. They look like raindrops. I hardly ever use them, but I did test them to make sure that they would transfer over well from you guys from the gallery, and kind of mesh them together into one piece to create this little devil symbol. It looks really nice. I'm very, very happy with it, and it did have a swirling circular sort of backdrop on the back, so I ended up using a window. And as you can tell, it does create a little bit of a conflict when it comes to the amount of windows that I'm using, but all of the windows actually work. I'm not sure why. I was getting this sort of weird glitching where some of the windows just weren't like clipping all the way through the building, but the door, the windows, everything works properly. They're all spaced out correctly. It's just that on this particular lot, for some reason, I was having an issue with that. And yeah, I am just doing a little bit of terrain painting. There's actually some sort of terrain painting in the reference photo that I'm using where it appears to maybe be like an area where people walk very frequently instead of using like the path, and it sort of grinds down the pathway. So I wanted to highlight that just to match as much as I could of the original artwork. I did add a few things that are my own personal thing, just because this building ultimately, and I know some of you are going to look at this and be like, what are you talking about? But as far as it goes in The Sims, and me as a particular type of builder who does like a lot of landscaping, a lot of very, very heavy exterior foliage, and I tend to just really overdo it when it comes to my exteriors, I felt like it was looking a little plain. So I decided to add some stuff, including like some low-laying shrubbery, some grass, some flowers, up the ante on the fence a little bit, and do some more trees and stuff. I was trying to create the sort of circular hidden oasis that they were doing with like all of the school being completely surrounded by trees, and those really, really tall woodsy trees are also from the debug category, or might be the show hidden objects category of the game. And I didn't really explain it because I think we are going to do it again when we go over to the auditorium, which is the sort of circular building that I have done off to the far left. But we also don't have bleachers. So whenever I have to do something that includes bleachers, I always have to figure out how am I going to do that. My favorite item to use is the one from Outdoor Retreat, I believe, which is kind of a log cut in half. They stack really, really nicely, and I like the way that they don't clip too much and you don't get too much like flashing textures and all of that when you have to sort of mesh them together. But I will say, definitely not the most functional. It's not as though your Sims are going to be able to climb all the way up to the top of the risers for the bleachers and sit up there. It's just not something that you're going to be able to do. But I am hoping, fingers crossed, that University does come with some kind of bleachers because we are desperate for them. Functional ones at that. Maybe not just decorative ones, although you never really know when it comes to the Sims. So I like to use these and just create. I've used them in like so many builds. I actually did one school previous to this, and I think it was the school from Fairly Odd Parents, and I decided to decorate the interior of that because I felt like so many of you would enjoy it, and it was kind of all out of my head, but I did create a gym at one point, and I ended up using the same item to create risers, bleachers, whatever you call them. And it was a little bit of a long process to do it in this given space. This is actually the auditorium. It is completely exposed. It is really interestingly shaped in that it just isn't like, I think in the game it was supposed to be perfectly round, but we don't have the capacity in The Sims to make a perfectly round room. So I did have to, you know, use a shape that we can do in The Sims, which is hexagons, octagons, and then fit them in there. And that does work out a little bit more because it is more of a rectangular object. It wouldn't have worked if it was a round room because we don't have any type of seating that is perfectly circular. So it works out. Not the most functional. I know that. You know that. Moving on. Now we are decorating the interior. So like I said, we are only going to be doing the rooms that are actually visible on the game map. The first one is the gym. I am keeping it very simple when it comes to the interior because that is what the artwork is showing. A lot of times I will add my own flair to things, but I think that for this, I really just wanted to replicate it as closely as what was being shown. So the floor was orange. It had 2 basketball hoops, very clean cut, had a couple of scoreboards, and it was a little bit interesting as far as like how am I going to recreate scoreboards knowing that we don't have any. So minimal decoration. I think I ended up using just like a generic wall sculpture sign, and then just to add a little something so it's not too plain because I don't think my heart could actually do it, I ended up decorating with like the typical things you would see in a gymnasium, like jerseys, which right now we only have soccer jerseys, so that's a little bit annoying as well. And then trophies, medals, anything like that. You can actually go into debug mode and find like basketballs. It would be nice if we had a basketball rack or any of the things you would normally see like on a court. And then I wanted to add a couple of more bleachers in here for people to sit and watch the baseball game, basketball game. Just because it ended up being a little bit uneven, and we had some room on the far right-hand side when you walked in, so I felt like it made sense to just give a little bit of space in there to watch the game. I did have to size the actual court markers down. I don't know how functional that makes that. I really am not sure at all. Somebody let me know down below if they know, or if you download this, and yes, it is available for download on the gallery under my origin ID, theallegedsimmer, all one word. Let me know if you use it, what do you do with it, and if you're enjoying it. And I'm also really, really considering, in fact, I already kind of have this penciled in on my calendar, so probably going to happen, but I think I'm going to recreate some of the characters from Monster Prom as well, just because I enjoyed the game when I played it so much. I've played it in my personal time pretty frequently, and I'm sort of not done with it in my head. Like, when we did the KFC game, I was done. By the time I put that last episode out, I had been, like, had enough of that game. But this is totally different. This is a game that I could see myself playing like a couple of times frequently throughout the year in my own personal time, and I just enjoy everything about it overall and watching other people play it as well. So I think I'm going to recreate the characters that you get to pick from in the beginning when you get to choose your first few characters. I'm not super good with names, but you guys know what I'm talking about, the red, yellow, blue, green character. and characters, and it's all going to be really in theme for Halloween and all of that. So probably see that in the near future. Stay tuned for that. And like I said, again, I will be playing more of the Monster Prom game. I don't know if I even mentioned this in the beginning of the video, but they have a new Halloween pack, not pack, because you don't have to pay for it, I don't believe. It is an update to the game coming out in a couple of days now by the time you guys are seeing this. So I'm excited for that. That's why I'm going to be playing the game a little bit more and doing some videos for you guys. So check that out soon. And now we are decorating the classroom. So it seemed to be a very basic classroom. It just had like X amount of chairs, desks, and then like the teacher's desk and some chalkboards and everything. Just for the sake, again, of it being The Sims, I did go ahead to decide and like decorate some of the other parts. Do some books, do some random clutter things that you think you would probably see in a classroom, and then some bookshelves, some posters, and things like that to decorate the walls, because it just felt a little bit bland and plain in here. And it does look very similar to how it was actually designed in like the art and everything, but just for The Sims, I felt like we needed a little something more. So I happen to know that some of the Strangerville posters are a little bit weird, and they have like aliens, monsters, sciencey related things on them, and they actually work really well for classrooms. Funny enough, it's kind of one of those things that the Sims team throws into the game to hint at another pack, and they tell you that it's not a hint at another pack, but it definitely is a hint at another pack because they continuously do it all the time. So there are a few different posters that you can use, and I decided to like decorate the wall with a few of them and then do some of the bookcases, I think from kids stuff, in the darkest wood tone that those come in. Wood tones was actually a huge problem when it came to this building as well, because you can see I am using like an orangey window. It's not really a wood tone. It's actually like a salmon, which was clear for the art. Like that's the direction that they were sort of going in, but it didn't really work with some of the other orangey hues and the wood tones that I was using for the remainder of the building. So I ended up doing a mix, which is not my favorite thing to do, of like a darker wood tone, which I think is very in theme with the theme of like monsters. To do like more sultry colors like a darker wood, but a lot of the exterior featured either black and then some of the orangier wood, so it ended up being a big mix of everything across the board, and it works for this build. I don't like to do it. It's just like one of my pet peeves of The Sims and like the wood tone issues that we have, but it's not too distracting when it comes to this build. Now we are on to the library. So like I said, the stairs all the way up to the library are actually functional, but they do take up a huge amount of room. So this room was supposed to be like, it has this sort of bookcase that goes all the way around it. And then it looks like in the middle there is like a table. And I would have loved to have been able to do that very, very close. But to me, it was more important that you guys were able to actually get all the way up here and then still keep it somewhat library-ish. Although not like the best decorated library, and the bookcases don't really fit into the walls properly, but it is what it is. So you can get up here, and there are basically just a couple of bookcases. I did manage to fit a few chairs over on the far left on that second part of this upper floor, but I might have to remove them. As of you guys seeing this video, I haven't play tested this, so I have to go through and make sure everything is working, and hopefully those stairs are working, but yeah, I just wanted you guys to be able to get up here, and that results in this room being less obvious as to the original artwork. It doesn't quite look exactly like what they had originally imagined. So that's a little bit disappointing, but it is what it is sometimes, especially with like trying to put a railing on the edge of the stairs, because it does create such a big hole in the floor. You can't just leave that hole there. So you have to put up some kind of a fencing or a wall. And I was originally using like the medium length wall, half wall height, but I ended up opting out for the really, really, really short half wall height, which is so dangerous if you think about it in real life. And I know so many of you would probably be like, I wouldn't have used that because that is literally the most dangerous looking thing ever. But I am constantly doing things in The Sims that, if you did in real life, are probably the most dangerous thing ever. So it's okay with me. And then this might be, no, there's 2 more parts. So we have the bathroom, and then we have the outdoor area and a little bit of like outdoor lighting. So the bathroom was actually very simple. In the game, the bathrooms are, what do you call it? Like co-gender. I don't know what it's called. Anybody can go in any bathroom. So it doesn't really matter. You don't really need 2 separate sides, and there wasn't any indication of like anything. So I just wanted to match the colors up, and then it does have this really big like square building, so it appeared to me that it was probably more than 1 bathroom. So I put a door on one side and a door on the other side, and then they are exactly the same, completely neutral, and all of the stalls are exactly the same and all of that. So I decorated the one side and literally just copy and pasted it over to the other side. Doesn't really matter, but it does create like a lot of options for bathrooms. The only ones in the building, might I add, because I was going to do like a couple of additional bathrooms in the main building, which is probably the most realistic, and there definitely is room if you're going to decorate the remaining parts yourself. You could add some more bathrooms inside, but just for like the game, the bathroom is outside, which I think is so cool and kind of funny. Imagine going to school. Actually, comment down below and let me know if this is the case for your high school, because this is definitely not for my high school, that you would have to leave the main building to go to the bathroom. That would be like such a place. Like everybody, which in the game it is, like it's where stuff happens. It's where people hide when they don't want to go to class. But that's, I feel like, exactly why they don't do bathrooms that are separate from the school. Maybe it's something that they used to do, but they don't do it anymore because people would just go out there and hide in the woods. Like, I know for me, I know when I went to high school, we personally had a huge issue of people ditching class and like escaping to the woods that surrounded our school, which I'm not sure, again, how much that impacts other schools. It might have just been a thing with us, but we had tons of woods and we had like a river and everything. So if you really wanted to ditch class, that's what you did. You would go out to like the woods and just start hiking down the trails and probably just like leave. But I can only imagine how much worse that problem would have gotten if the bathroom was located outside. So that's always something that I found to be a little bit funny about it in general. But just like in general for the game, it makes a lot of sense that that's the case. Because school doesn't seem to be the biggest priority when it comes to the game. So, and then lastly, for this little outdoor area, I just wanted to light it up with some lanterns and make it a little bit prettier. Some of the images from the game show it lit up with all of these like Christmas tree lights. And there's no way to really do that, especially for trees in The Sims. Maybe on like a Christmas tree, you can like individually decorate it. But instead, I decided to opt out for the lanterns and sort of place them myself around the tree. And there's a bonfire in front of it. That's like something I added so that there would be an excuse for your Sims to want to go out there. And then we're just doing a little bit of outdoor lighting and bringing this place to life at night, making sure all of the pathways are working correctly and that we have lots of entranceways for the stairs and everything. And you can sort of see the areas that I've left blank, which are pretty large, but there's so much you could do with it. You could do like a locker room. You usually have like a, what do you call it? Like a nurse's office, the general offices, and then maybe a more classroom or two, a couple, I don't know. So I think that is going to be the end of today's video. So again, if you would like to download this Monster Spooky High from Monster Prom, check it out on the gallery. My origin ID is theallegedsimmer, all one word. It is available for download and there's no custom content on the lot. If you would like to see the videos of me playing Monster Prom, it will be linked down below as well as at the end of the video any moment here for you guys to check out. And also in a few more days here, check out my newer Let's Plays of Monster Prom, where I will be giving away a free code to the game to one of you guys. Thank you, and courtesy of Monster Prom themselves. And thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Hit that little bell icon below to turn on post notifications so you can get updated every single time I post, and I will talk to you all in the next one.